So I want to share with you a story about how a prayer changed the world. And even though most people aren't going to probably believe what I'm sharing here, I want to share this story, and you get to decide whether you think it's for real or if it's not. Or maybe you can tell me why what happened did or how it did. But I actually believe what makes the most sense to me is that I shifted into a parallel reality using a prayer and using this energetic practice that I was really just discovering at the time. And since discovering it, I started researching, looking for some answers, understanding of what was happening inside of me. How could something like this happen that was so profound that the world changed? And not only did it change, but the history even changed. There was a backstory to what I'm going to share with you, that the only really possibility to me that it could happen that way is that I shifted into a parallel reality. And I believe that this potential is what is our next evolutionary experience as being humans. As we come into this quantum world reality, this understanding, this embodied experience that life is energy, is consciousness. We're energetic beings living in a consciousness universe. And if that's the case, multidimensionality, if parallel realities are real, if every time we're making decisions, new universes are being created, there's different versions of us living out different timelines and things like that, right? We hear a lot of things like this. Well, this experience is the most profound one that I've had in my life of this kind of shift. And it's different than just manifesting something in your life, which I've also had so many experiences with. And the reason this one felt and seems and is different to me is because of that backstory, which I'll share with you about. Meaning that reality changed for me, but for everybody else, this was like already coming. This was the way reality is. So it really seems to me that I shifted from one dimension or reality into another, where this was the case. And when this happened was a time in my life where I was entering into this capacity, which could have many names. I'm calling it God mode, because it's this state where we realize our oneness with all of life, that we are the source, we are God, we are one with that very source and with all of life. So this is a deep, mystical state, but I also see it as actually our very natural state. This is what we are when we're free of all the limiting conditions and beliefs and energetics that we've taken on as humanity in our human experience. That this state, this God mode, is free of that. It's a perfect state to be shifting into other dimensions, other realities, or manifesting things, or just being in the bliss and the unity, the oneness of connection to God, to the very source of life. It all comes together, and I was realizing this inside of myself in this time of my life. And this was over a decade ago now. And I was discovering how to enter into this God mode on purpose. And it happened through confronting the deepest, darkest hell realm that exists within me and within reality. It was through this process of learning to surrender deeply into that. And this was after many other awakenings, which I talk about the different levels of awakenings that I believe have to happen for you to get to this place where you can even enter into the God mode. But the sort of ridiculous thing is once you start to realize that within yourself, you realize that's what you've always been. And that's what we are. This is the very core of our consciousness. But from the human perspective and from where we are currently in our reality, our relationship to life, how we experience ourselves, our humanness, there's a journey and there's awakenings that happen along the path. And so I had had over a decade or so of these different deep awakenings of the mind and the heart and the body, and really coming into this deeply embodied knowingness of this oneness. But in that process, for me, was this learning of the energy of our consciousness, of the heart. Because after, I had some great, amazing awakenings that had taken me up into a very elevated, high vibration life for a lot of years, and just manifesting a lot of flow and magic and things in my life. And then there came a point where I fell away from that, like a dark night of the soul time. And literally just couldn't find the love anymore, couldn't find that place of bliss and freedom and connection, and feeling, waking up literally hating myself and like just wanting to not be here anymore, and knowing like that's even worse. These were some of the patterns that I grew up in, right? The traumas and the addiction and depression patterns. So I was reconfronting that, which is part of this awakening process. You go back through the patterns, the deep, darkest places within yourself. But in this process, I started learning how to center into the heart and activate what I call your higher heart. Others do as well, this higher heart. And moving this energy through my field, literally like sweeping it up and down through my field. And this was just something I started developing because I was like suffering so much. I was struggling so hard, and knowing that there was a state of higher consciousness available, but I couldn't find it. Couldn't be it anymore. I was so immersed in my own darkness. And teachings were coming, dreams were coming, things were happening to help me to discern this. Because I was asking, how does this happen? I know I can be so much more in my life. Why am I still suffering so much? Why am I stuck in this darkness? And part of that path out of that, through it, deeper into it, was this practice, moving energy through my field. And what I started to realize was this was a way to tune my consciousness, to return back to, an enlightened state, a place of freedom, a place of deep peace and love and bliss. And as I developed this technique and learning, discerning what took me out of that state, what took me out of God mode, and how to get back in it. And in the very beginnings of this time, it was just like something that felt amazing, right? Here I was suffering. I could go into a meditation, work with this energy, move through it, which I've developed into this practice now, these 4 steps, how you can work with what's showing up, get into this God mode state, do some spiritual alchemy work with the energy and the patterns that are showing up inside of you, and create what you want to create right now within your experience, within your own field. This is the power that we have. And it's not wishful thinking. It's not just mind stuff. It's literally shifting your vibration, your reality, your frequency. Returning it to this core frequency, this very pure and expanded state of experience, of knowing yourself and of feeling the oneness with God, with life, and all the peace and the bliss that comes with that, right? All of our suffering comes from being disconnected from that state. And when we come back into that God mode, there's immense bliss and peace and stillness, and then capacity to create our reality within. So this is kind of the backstory of how I even got to this place. And I was learning this and just using it to, to feel good, to find peace within myself, and to work with my struggle, my darkness, my shadows, my limitations. And so there came a time I was out, a place kind of like this, along the river, near where I grew up and where I was living again as an adult and raising my son. And there was this bit of land along the river there. I don't know how many acres, but quite a few. Like, could be 50 or something, 100 acres. And there were these ponds. It used to be owned, well, it was back then actually, owned by this corporation. The corporation was up on the hill. Some of these ponds were actually somehow, I don't know, places that they, let their sewage go into or whatever. I'm not really sure what happened in there, because there actually used to be big fences with barbed wire and everything on the top all along the river. So on one side you could walk along this trail, and on one side was this river and these trees and just beautiful, and then the other side was this big fence with these barbed wires all the way along this whole property. And I just hated it. I was like, this is so ugly and terrible. And this is such beautiful land, these nice wetlands and this space along the river, and it's just right outside of town, and I really love that place, and I wanted it to be special. So I started tuning into a prayer. And the prayer was something simple like, this land is open and free for all beings forever. Something like that. And so I started practicing this movement of energy through my field, centering in the heart, and then moving my awareness up and down through my field. Clearing out, like this isn't a practice of attuning. It's like you clear out all the clutter, all the other stories, all the other realities. Come into a state of real pure awareness and tension. And then I started thinking this prayer. This land is open and available for all beings forever. And thinking that thought and feeling that and sweeping my awareness through my field, basically infusing everything, my physical body, my energy body, my intention, everything with this prayer. And it was very, selfless, right? I just wanted the land just to be open and free. Wanted to get rid of the fences and all of that. But, a very simple prayer, but a clear intention. And embodying that. And I probably spent like a week or so doing this. So I don't know when the shift happened. All I know is that I would go out at sunset and sit and pray and do this movement of energy, living into that reality as if it was real, as if this land was open and free for all beings forever. And at one point, and this seems somewhere where that shift happened, I brought my wife out and I just said, hey, this is the place, and I've had this prayer. And I told her about it and what I've been doing, and of course she gave me, I don't know what she didn't say anything, honestly. She just, but I'm pretty sure it was the next day, but within a couple of days, something like that, she comes home from her parents' house and she's like, you are not going to believe this. And she throws down the newspaper, the local newspaper, and right on the cover in big letters, and there's a big picture of this place, this land, exactly where I was living this prayer. And it says, magical open space. And then it goes on to describe, it said something like, in a surprise decision, the council and the city has decided to buy all this land from this corporation, and they're going to open it up and make it this open space. In effect, making it open and available for all beings forever. And they literally came in and took all the fences down and put in some nice trails, and there's flowers and things growing, and it's this expanded, beautiful area along the river that's there for everybody to come and participate in, and there's lots of wildlife that's been flourishing there, and all these just like beautiful things. That prayer in reality. And this was just like mind blowing, because this was not just manifesting something in my life. This was literally manifesting something in the world on a big level. And when I just investigated some, there was this is what I was talking about, the history. There was like, oh yeah, no, it was a surprise decision by the council, but they'd been working behind the scenes for months, or whatever, some negotiations and all these things, and this was just in the works. So this is the point where, I say to you, you can decide. Was this just some magical, synchronistic thing that I just happened to have this prayer when life was already going to make that happen? That's possible. It just seems so unlikely. All the possibilities that somehow that would happen. But if that's where you are, then fine. But for me, this ability to get into this God mode state and how it changes our frequency, and the fact that there was this thing that happened and now it had a history, and this is not the only example. There's a couple others in my life that were so dramatic like this that it just was like, okay, I sort of don't even know what to do with this. And I've also tried to do this with other things and failed. It hasn't happened. And so there's some other levels of, you could either say magic or discernment or, God, wisdom, because I believe God is real and it is what we are. But there's also a wisdom in reality. We're here to learn lessons. We're here to evolve and grow. I was ready to step into that power in that moment and realize that. You must be also, if you're hearing me, if this is this inspiring you to go deeper, to wander into the multidimensional reality that we live in and the power that we have to change the world, to change our lives, to do things for the better of the world, maybe. We could create problems doing this, so I don't know. But when I started exploring and trying to find were there any other teachings, were there any other things out there that were related to what I was experiencing, even to the level of just getting in this God mode state and working with the energy and moving it through the field, and I discovered this teaching in the Bible, this vision of Ezekiel's, the Merkaba. And if you run in spiritual, New Age circles, you'll hear about the Merkaba. It's known to be our personal ascension vehicle. It's this golden chariot that we can ride to go, and this is the description that I've read in different things. This chariot, when you learn how to work with these wheels within wheels, and there's 4 different qualities to it, which relates to a lot of other teachings: physical, emotional, mental, and energetic bodies, and the rings within our field, our energy, our heart, our coherence, and these vortexes of energy. There's just a lot of relationships to this teaching. And then there was the seraphim, which are called burning angels, and how they are rising and descending angels that clear or help activate this Merkaba, which is what I was doing. When I started reading the Merkaba teachings, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been doing. And look what happened. Because the chariot, the Merkaba, when you activate it, and these seraphim, these burning angels, get this engine going, moving it through your field. It said to take you through the 7 dimensions. Literally says this, through the 7 dimensions and into the throne of God. As God, one with God, in the throne of God. A chariot that you can ride through different dimensions. This is the story. These are the teachings. And this is the experience. This is what I experienced. And so this is the power that we have. This is our evolutionary potential. In this God mode, in this capacity to work with our energy, to enter into this state and use the energy of our consciousness to do the spiritual alchemy. And this is one of the benefits of this process, is alchemizing the energetics, the stories, the limitations, the patterns, the programming, all those things, freeing yourself from that, coming into this pure vibration of pure intention, pure creation, pure awareness, pure God. You're in the mode of God. That's why I love this. God mode. You are the creator. You're the one creating your experience, and you create your reality within yourself as what you are. And this vehicle of consciousness, this Merkaba, gives you the ability to travel through the dimensions of reality. And we're doing it all the time. This is a whole other thing, but this experience in particular for me, and maybe you'll have some now. I'd love to hear. Anybody else has any experiences like this? I've heard one other person talk about this, spiritual teacher, talking about this capacity. Because the thing is, in multidimensional reality, if I'm a pivot point, as God, as creator, shifting into parallel dimensions, right, I'm the only one who knows. Because suddenly I'm in a new reality where that's just how things are. Everybody who's in that reality might be the same people, just slightly different reflections, or the histories might be different. This is the whole thing, and this is why I said most people won't believe this. It's all right. You don't have to. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just here saying it's possible. I'm saying this is what happened to me. This is my story. You can look it up, or maybe I tried. I have a clipping from the newspaper somewhere, one of my boxes, the magical open space. So I think that's all I want to share for right now. This was an amazing experience. And the beautiful thing to me about it was how a prayer changed the world. And just one person, or maybe it took two, I don't really know. I brought, my wife in, and maybe she lived that prayer with me. I don't know what made it happen. But it wasn't just about me. And I know a lot of the other things I've tried to do and failed were just about me. So, in what ways can we be serving the higher good of all of life through what we're creating? How does that alignment, that attunement to higher truth and to what really wants to happen and what we're ready for? There's some very powerful and profound things within all of that. But on the simplest level, a prayer can change the world. We have the capacity to get into the very core of our consciousness and experience a real truth of who we are, this oneness, this God within ourselves, realize oneness with God. Which if you look in the Bible, this is what Jesus says, we can all be one. This was one of his last prayers. May they all be one. All the believers, that's what he said. But if you believe in this, you believe in God, if you desire to feel that oneness, to really with all of your heart become the truth of who you are, with a purity of heart, then I believe it's available here for you to find that and to experience the profound peace and bliss and love that comes with that, and the power and the realization that we are creators of our reality. So, thanks for tuning in. I really would love to hear if you have any experiences or if you have any questions about what I'm sharing here. And keep tuning in to my channel, because I'm sharing the teachings along the way in how to do this, how to enter into this God mode, how to become more empowered in your life and who you are, how to be more connected and live as the truth of who you are, to be an embodiment of that here in the world, because there's so many other things that come from that, and how we actually change and raise the vibration of the human experience here together is through this same process. So it's not just, whatever, science fiction, fantasy, but it is, and it's fucking awesome. And I want to be better at that. I want to be a magical, amazing manifester, and I want to be here in service to the world, helping to reunite the heart of humanity in this place of love and freedom and oneness. So Thanks for tuning in and wishing you so much love, many blessings.